Welcome to the UFO Woman Show. I'm your host, Melissa Kennedy. So today is our very first show, and I'm so excited, but I'm equally excited about our first guest, Mr. Kevin Briggs. So Kevin is not only an author of The Spiritual Consciousness, A Personal Journey, but he's also an experiencer, and he's come here today to share with us some of his contact with extraterrestrials and his experiences with consciousness. So Kevin, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you, Melissa?
Wonderful, wonderful. So let's start by just talking about you, what your career has been, what your background is, and just kind of give our audience a little feel of what you have been doing.
Okay, well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for inviting me on your show.
Absolutely.
It's a great opportunity to talk about my book, and I do enjoy talking about it now, and it does have a message, so thank you again for inviting me on your show.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
My book started, I was about 3 years old, and I had an experience where my mother had engaged a photographer to come and take a family photograph to put in the family album. And the photographer arrived, I was duly washed, had my hair combed, and the photographer lifted me up onto a table so he had a better vantage point, an elevated position. And from that elevated position, as a 3-year-old, I looked around the room, and not only was it an elevated position, but I knew then that I was conscious, and I was conscious again in another physical. Oh. And that was my first recollection of being conscious at the age of 3.
So when you say consciousness, are you referring to an out-of-body experience? Would you explain it that way, or?
I would explain it as there are two sides to us. There's our spiritual side, and then there's a physical side, and the two join together.
Nice.
As a young boy, I was aware from that age that there were two sides to us.
Did it scare you?
No, I just accepted it. I was quite happy with it. Bearing in mind, I thought it's just normal.
Yeah.
So it was normal for me.
Normal for you.
Normal
right.
for me.
Maybe not for the rest of us, but
maybe not. But
yeah,
normal for me. Yeah.
So it started at a very early age, very, very early. So take us through. I have read your book, by the way.
Good. Did you enjoy it?
Oh my gosh, yes. This is honestly the best non-fiction book I have ever read. It was just filled with the most wonderful details. When you described things like your grandmother's house, just all the little details that you took us through in your journey, I felt like I was there.
Good.
So this book is just unbelievable. It really opens your mind to a lot of, unusual things that maybe we haven't thought of. But in a way that is his personal story. So it just hit home for me. It was one of those books I couldn't put down, didn't want to put down, so I highly recommend it. But Kevin, you started your book out with starting as a young boy, a 3-year-old. And then you went into some other major events that happened to you as a child. Can you go into that with us, some of your experiences?
Yes, I can do. My first experience of meeting two of the higher conscious beings, their names are Ort and Dee. I was 8 years old at the time. I was having a weekly bath. Not quite sure how hygienic that was, but the rest of the time we were sponged down with soap and water. I was having that weekly bath. I was in the bathroom on my own, and I felt a change in the vibration in the room, a change in the frequency. I was always able to detect these frequencies.
And explain that to us for a minute, for our audience that maybe doesn't know what that means.
Okay.
What would that mean?
How would I
exactly?
explain that? Let me see. I would say that very similar to radio frequencies.
Okay.
When you have a dial on the radio, you tune into the different frequencies. And I believe that our brains are receptors for those frequencies. Okay. And I'm able to tap into some of the higher frequencies. Nice. So I felt that while I was sat in the bath. I felt this change in the vibration within the bathroom, and two beings appeared at the side of me.
Oh my gosh.
To the right-hand side.
Did it scare you?
It frightened me to death.
I'm picturing myself in the bath at 8 years old, and that would be epic.
Terrified. I was terrified, yes.
Were you thinking maybe you were falling asleep, or?
No, I was, again, because I felt the change in the vibration in the room, and there was a slight drop in temperature as well, which very often they coincide together. So I was aware of these vibrational frequencies before, but I hadn't had anybody actually materialize and to do that. And they were slightly elevated off the floor. There was one male, one female, both very attractive, very attractive. Long blonde shoulder length hair, both of them, deep blue eyes, and they wore...
Nordics?
They tell me now afterwards that they are actually Arcturians.
Oh, okay.
They're a fifth dimensional being, and they come from Andromeda.
Oh.
So that's what they tell me. So, and they say that I'm part of their extended family, only that I live here in the third dimension, and they live in the fifth dimension. And, and the only difference between the dimensions is the frequencies of cells that the cells vibrate at. And that's what makes a difference. So
a third dimension being versus a fifth dimension being, you're saying it's a difference in their vibrational level?
Yes.
So if I wanted to ascend to a fifth dimension, what would I have to do as a human being?
You would have to raise your vibrational frequency. We all vibrate at a certain frequency.
Right.
And if you can raise that vibrational level, which I believe that's what they've done with me, so I'm able to communicate with them in many different modalities of contact. But they, to continue with that particular story, they were speaking to one another, not to me, but about me.
Oh,
and
a little awkward.
I'm sat there terrified, and they're speaking about me. And the female said to the male, "Is this the boy?" And the male said, "Yes, it is." And then the female said, "Are you sure this is the boy?" He says, "Yes, I'm sure." And then she said, "Well, look at him, he's small, he's uneducated, and he's frightened by our presence." And she was correct, I was terrified.
Wow.
There was some other conversation, and he said, "Yes, this is a boy, I will guide him, I will teach him." There was some other conversation after that, but I don't remember that. And then they stayed for a couple of minutes, and then they disappeared. I was so frightened, I just stayed in the bath. I didn't get out. The water went cold.
Oh, I was going to say you're freezing now.
I was freezing, I was shivering. And my mother came in to find out why I was still in the bath. And I said, there were two beings appeared in the bath next to me, and they were talking about me, and I was frightened to get out.
And what was her reaction?
She said it was just your imagination,
Just
Kevin.
your imagination.
So she dried me off, and then we went on with our evening as normal. But that was my first encounter with Orton D, and I've had contact with them and others now all my life. And I'm now 65, so that's about 57 years if my math's correct. So, yeah, and I wouldn't have spoken out about it had it not been for about 3 years ago. Bearing in mind I've had interaction with them all my life, and I got up about 3 years ago in the middle of the night just to go to the bathroom, and I came back into the bedroom, and there's a bright light outside the window. The light then came in through the window. The whole bedroom lit up like a myriad of butterflies, just bright, sparkly light everywhere.
Oh, beautiful.
And then Orton D materialised at the bottom of the bed.
Wow.
So after pleasantries, I asked what was the reason for their visit. Bearing in mind I'm used to seeing them, interacting with them, so nothing unusual.
You weren't scared?
Not scared, not happy to see them.
Yeah.
And they said, "Kevin, we want you to talk about your experiences with us, your lifelong experiences, and we want you to write a book. In fact, you will write 2 books. And I remember saying to them, I said, "Well, I don't mind talking about my experiences, but I'm not a writer." And they said that we will continue to guide you, we will continue to teach you, and we will give you some information to include in the book.
So when you're saying talking, are you saying like how we talk or telepathically?
No, it's telepathic communication. That's what they use. But fortunately, over the years, they've taught me how to do that. I'm quite adept at it now, yes.
Very nice, very nice. So, okay, so we've started out as a 3-year-old. We've had an experience as an 8-year-old. I know you talked a lot in your book about how close you were with your family. You referred to your mother and father quite a bit. Your father was in a wheelchair, correct? Tell me a little bit about that story.
Well, my father was always disabled from when I was born. He had multiple sclerosis, so I never saw him walk. But we were a tight-knit family. There was obviously my father, my mother, and my brother Michael. And unfortunately, my father died when I was only 9 years old. But we were a close family, and we still remain to be a close family. And I still communicate with what we perceive as deceased father, because my understanding is now that we have, they live at the higher vibrational frequencies now without a physical.
In their next life.
In their next.
So they've passed.
They've passed.
Right.
Okay, but there's an in-between stage.
So
they're now in this stage where they're a higher vibrational frequency existing.
Okay.
If they choose to come back into the physical, then they can come back into a lower dimension, like the third dimension.
Oh, wow. Okay, so time out. I'm going to try to get our audience up to speed here. All right, I know what you're talking about. This is obviously what I do for a living.
Oh, okay.
So let's bring our audience to the ones that maybe aren't familiar with what you're speaking of. We do know that there are multiple dimensions in the universe. We live in a one-dimensional, basically, world. Our eyes, our organs can only really see up to 3D. So when you're talking about transferring over to other dimensions, are you talking about after we pass, after we die, that we are passing into other dimensions, correct?
Right, yes.
Okay, our soul, our consciousness.
Perhaps if I can explain, give you an example of something that Art showed me when I was 17 or 18. I know that I was given the ability to be able to travel outside of my body, separate the consciousness from the physical, and just go and travel. And I would do that as a child, usually on a Sunday, to go and visit my grandparents who live 70 miles away.
That was in your book quite a bit.
Yes.
And I loved that because I was close to my grandparents.
Right, okay.
So I can relate.
Well, we weren't able to travel over to see them because it was quite expensive at that time. We'd probably go once or twice a year. So on a Sunday, I would just relax, open my mind, and my conscious energy would travel over to their home. I would enter the home, and then I would sit upstairs in the master bedroom upstairs, and then they had a dressing room, and I would sit in the dressing room looking down through the floor, and it was just opaque. I could see my grandmother usually in the kitchen cooking on a Sunday, and my grandfather sat in his usual chair, either reading the newspaper or watching TV. And it gave me great comfort to see them. And I always wondered when I sat there, what would they see if they came upstairs?
Right, would they see you, or?
Would they see me? I didn't know the answer then, but I know the answer now. What they would have seen, there would have been a pure conscious energy orb. It would have been 4 to 6 inches across, orangey yellow in colour, slightly vibrating. That's my conscious energy.
That's your conscious energy.
Yeah.
It's almost like your remote viewing in a way.
Very similar to remote viewing, very similar, yes. But I think it's one step further than remote viewing. It's actually separating that consciousness.
Great. Okay, so let's take a step back here just a second. You were in the military, or your brother was in the military?
My brother was in the military.
Brother was in the military. Yeah. Okay, and that was an interesting story because you mentioned in your book that your mother had a friend who came over.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that story and how that's an interesting story about your brother in the Navy?
Yes, my brother, he came home one day and he said that we'd already been told by my mum's friend, Mrs. Seed, that one of her sons was going to be in the Navy. And I think it was on that day when...
and she was told how, though?
Oh, she was a medium.
She was a medium. Okay.
So she was given the information as a medium. And she said that one of your sons was going to apply for the Navy, but he would be turned down 3 times.
Oh, my gosh.
Or twice, and on the 3rd time he would be accepted. So, and then on that specific day, I think, or the day after, my brother came home and said that he was considering joining the Navy.
After that. Oh my gosh, and she read tea leaves, right?
She did. Did I put that in the book? I forget now,
Yes, you talked about reading tea leaves. That's the first time I've heard of that.
Oh, right, she was a good friend of my mother. In fact, anyway, my brother he applied for the Navy, he got turned down, he was unfit.
Oh.
So I used to joke about it at the time, and then, so he applied again 6 months later, and he still wasn't fit enough. So he applied again a 3rd time, and he got in.
And she had just been told that.
And she'd already been told that. But then
wow.
I remember another occasion, I don't know whether this is in the book or not, but she said, one of your sons is going to break his leg. So my mother phoned me, and she said, Kevin, are you okay? I said, yeah, I'm fine. So I've been speaking to Mrs. Seed, and she said, one of my sons is going to break his leg. I said, well, I'm fine, it must be Michael. So she phoned Michael, and he'd broken his ankle the day before playing squash.
Oh my goodness.
So she was quite attuned to the higher levels of consciousness and contact herself. But,
wow.
So I suppose to some degree, I just accepted that as normal.
Just normal.
Yeah, just normal. Yeah.
Normal. So you grew up in Britain, correct? You went through your school age years. You did the whole, being moved around a bit. You talked about that in the book. Your father passed away at age 9. So your mother moved the family, correct, to another house.
Yes, that's correct.
Was it hard moving a lot?
It wasn't actually, because we went back to the same area where we actually moved from the area to a house that was purposely built for a disabled person.
Okay.
It was on one level. It had the wider corridors, the larger bathrooms to facilitate a wheelchair.
Right, since your dad was
So when
in a
my
wheelchair,
dad passed, we then moved back to the old neighbourhood. So it was an upheaval, obviously, him passing.
Kind of like returning.
Yeah, but then we returned to an area, similar friends, same friends, and we made new friends. So.
And you stayed there through high school, or?
Yes, stayed there through high school, and then left, and then went to work at I got a job at the University of Leeds as a technician.
Okay.
And I worked there for about 11 years, and then from there I left there and joined the police force in England, and I was a police officer for 20 years.
Oh.
And then,
did that influence your career, your experiences?
No, because I didn't talk about them.
Didn't talk about it at all with the police force?
No, I decided that I tried to find more information, and as I say, when I was 17, 18, I asked Art, and I said, I know there's a lot more information here, can you show me some more information?
And Ort was one of the beings?
Art was the male.
The male,
yeah.
Okay.
So one evening I went to bed, I relaxed, I opened my mind, I held my hand out, and I asked Art to come and show me some more. He took hold of my hand, I left my body, I looked down, I could see my body asleep, and we went out through the window. I was 3 stories up, we flew around the subdivision, and then came back in through the window. I woke up the following morning thinking, well, that was cool.
Yeah.
But I wasn't certain whether I was dreaming or whether it was real.
Kind of sounds like Peter Pan.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah,
it really does. It sounds like a story.
And I hadn't heard of anybody doing that before. So, so I thought the second evening I'll do the same again. So I relaxed. I opened my mind. I asked Art to come. I held out my hand. He came. He took hold of my hand. I left my body. I looked down. I could see it. I was asleep. We went out through the window. And we flew further this time. We went down into Leeds city centre, and I saw the university where I worked, the hospital, the town hall, some of the buildings I recognised. And then we came back into the window, and my body was asleep. I went down into my body, and he left. So the second morning I woke up, I'm still not convinced that I'm not dreaming or sleepwalking. So, and I'm a little concerned because I'm 3 stories up and it's concrete pavement below.
I couldn't do that. I have a severe fear of heights. So yeah, 3 stories up, not good for me.
So what I decided to do for the 3rd night running, I asked him again to come and show me some more. So he did, he came, he took hold of my hand, I looked down, I could see my body asleep. Bearing in mind, I'm used to doing this on my own, but not doing it with someone else.
With somebody else, right. That's a whole different ball game.
It is, totally, yes, and it was quite very interesting to be able to do that. But then I said to him, look, I'm quite happy doing this, but I don't want to go out through the window because I'm still not happy whether I'm sleepwalking or whatever.
I'm visualizing glass and,
So I said, can we go out through the roof? So we went out through the roof, and then we flew around, and we came back in through the roof. So I woke up the following morning really thinking, well, that's 3 times I've done that, that's cool.
Yeah.
And I continued to travel with him for nearly a 2-year period.
Now him is your spirit guide.
Yes, that's Art, the 5th dimensional being, yes.
Okay.
I think we have different names for them. It depends how you want to identify with them.
Oh, it sounds like a guardian angel type of
They are there
description
too.
in a way.
And I think we all have them. We just don't connect with them, or we don't talk about them.
We don't talk about them.
Because our culture doesn't allow us to do that.
And he was not a family member of yours or anything like that?
Only thing that he said to me, I was part of his extended family.
Oh.
From that point of view.
Interesting.
But I know that we were talking about deceased members of the family.
Right, right.
I remember on one occasion, Art came to me and he said, Kevin, I'm going to take you somewhere special tonight. Will you come with me? I said, I'll go anywhere you want to go.
Yeah, sure.
So he took hold of my hand. We left out through the roof.
Wow. Does that feel weird, by the way, going up through the roof?
No.
You don't feel it?
No, it's just, it was all normal to me. It's just,
wow.
It's just that total separation of consciousness. Okay. And you leave your physical behind.
So there's no feeling, there's no physical feeling.
No physical feeling, no.
Okay.
You're just aware.
I'm just trying to, trying to paint the picture here for the audience and for myself.
I suppose it is difficult because a lot of people don't talk about it.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have spoke about it, but unless they, like I said earlier, that they asked me to do that. So
right, right. So they're visiting you more regularly. It kind of sounds like at this point.
Yes, quite regular. And he said on this occasion, I'm going to take you somewhere special. So we left by the roof, and I could see the Earth getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And we were going.
You're in space.
You're up in space, just seeing the Earth.
Oh my goodness.
Very small. And then we took what I describe as a right-hand turn. We actually went into a higher dimension. And when I went into that dimension with Art, there was a line of 30 people stood there.
30 people?
30 people. And at the head of the line was my deceased father. And he was stood up. And I'd never seen him standing.
Because he'd been in a wheelchair.
I was in a wheelchair, so that was amazing. But
oh my goodness.
As I walked up to him, he said, Kevin,
that's emotional.
Please,
I mean, that's,
pleased to see you, you know.
Yeah.
But he said, I'm going to introduce you to 30 members of your family going back over 300 years.
Oh my.
So we started down the line, but the feeling of love was tremendous from this group. Absolutely tremendous. It was just overwhelming.
Right.
So then as I walked down the first 15, I was introduced to them all. We spoke about their last physicals that they had. And then when I got to the second 15, they were just pure conscious energy orbs. They didn't have any physical that was showing to me.
So,
now.
okay.
So, but I could still speak to them telepathically. Okay. And they showed me images of their past incarnation.
Oh, wow.
And I could still communicate with them. So that was fascinating. And I did that for quite a while with Art himself, but I got so confident in doing it, I was able to do it on my own. Okay. And I did it for over a period of 2 years. I would regularly go and visit them. But every time I went to see them, again, this tremendous feeling of love, they wanted me to stay there with them.
Oh, it's not your time.
Yeah, and I said that.
Oh, really? Maybe we're having a little moment here. I don't know, maybe telepathy's at play.
Yes, I said that. I said, no, I'm enjoying my physical.
Yeah.
I know when my physical expires, as it were, you'll still be here, and I'll come back and visit you again.
Come back and visit.
So,
at will.
At will, yes.
At will. Okay.
So then I decided that one day at work to go back and actually tell them that, rather than just not turn up. So on that evening, I relaxed up in my mind, and I travelled up to that higher dimension, and I spoke to them, all 30 of them, and they still wanted me to stay. And again, that feeling of love was tremendous.
Yeah.
But I said, I can't stay. I've got things I need to do. I'm enjoying my physical, and I know you're here when my physical expires, and I will come back and see you then. And I've never been back to see them since.
Really?
No. So, but
and that was how many years ago?
Oh, how old would I be? 18.
Oh, you were 18 years old at the time? Oh, wow, okay. So it has been a while.
A long while, yes.
Okay.
But I know they're there.
Yeah.
And if I want to communicate with an individual, I can do. But I don't need to. I'm enjoying the physical. I'm enjoying being here.
I'm curious. I mean, you know, you've had this just exceptional childhood. I mean, it's unlike any childhood most people have. So you have all of these really special experiences. Do you think that maybe influenced your decision to go into becoming a police officer, seeking the truth, doing justice, doing good?
No, not really. No.
Okay. Well.
No, I joined the police force because I enjoyed being a technician at the university, but I'd gone as far as I could go, and I fancied a change in direction. And I was just looking for different things
Something
to do.
Different to do.
And I looked at the police force. I thought, that sounds interesting. So I applied, and I was successful. And I enjoyed being a police officer for 20 years, 20 years.
I got to ask the question. As a police officer, did you ever have any UFO sightings?
As a police officer? Oh, that's a good one. No, I didn't.
No?
No.
I was hoping.
I don't think I got to that stage yet. When I was 14, I had a paper round, and I saw UFOs all the time.
Really?
Yes, as I came out of the house at 14 to go and collect my newspapers, a UFO would appear.
Really? Were you near Suffolk at all?
No, no, in Wakefield.
Okay, Wakefield. Okay. All right.
And a UFO would always appear as I walked out the door.
Wow.
And then a second UFO would appear. The two would fly together, follow me around the paper round, and then when I'd finished the paper, I thought, is this in the book? I can't remember.
No, I don't think so. I'm like,
I was saving that for my second book.
Yeah, spoiler alert. All right. Well, so it would follow you around. Do you think that was your spirit guides, maybe, or do you think it was a completely different extraterrestrial?
No,
race?
it was a group of 8 extraterrestrials that I've been introduced to through Orton D. And Orton D are members of this group of 8, yes.
The group of 8.
Yeah.
And I know that's significant. We're going to talk about that here in just a little bit. So you're basically an adult now. You're going into the police academy. There's a wonderful little story, though, that you talk about your now wife, Sandy, and how the two of you were dating, and it was actually a very sweet love story in here. I really appreciated it. You want to share a little bit of that with us and how you met your wife and how you got married and all that wonderful stuff?
Okay, well, I met Sandy at the university. She was a technician. She worked in psychology for many years and became the superintendent of psychology at the end of her career, as it were, and before she retired. But when I met her, obviously I asked her out. We went out a few times, and then I decided that I wanted to ask her to marry me. And I thought, well, I'd better tell her about the outer body experiences, the fact that I can see spirits, and there's more to me than just the regular things. So I thought it wouldn't be fair to get married, then she finds out later. So I actually told her, and she just accepted it and said, well, if you see any spirits, I want to see them as well, let me know.
Oh, and, great. So the love story continued.
Yeah, so we're still married to this day.
Still married to this day, and I know she has also helped some with this book, correct?
She has helped with the book. She designed the cover and helped me with the grammar and things like that.
Yeah,
so,
very nice, very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Well, okay, so we're still in Britain at this point.
Yes.
We're still in the UK. Tell me, at what point do you decide that you're going to be moving to the United States?
Okay, well, my wife wanted to move to the United States years earlier. She was actually offered a job at, I think, Penn State University. We discussed it, but then I was happy in the police force, and we decided that we would come to the United States at a later date. I wanted to get my police pension first, and then I would feel a little more secure, and then we could go anywhere. So I got to the retirement age, I retired, and then I asked Sandy where she wanted to go, and she said, let's go to the United States. So nice. We ended up in Florida, where we currently live now. So
okay, cool. So you moved to Florida. Obviously, you're done with your police career. Where does your career take you at that point, now that you're here in Florida?
Oh, okay, well, we went through the visa process, which we were successful. We started a small business in real estate, which was successful. And then once we got the visas through, we got the citizenship through, then we sold the business, and I just sell real estate now. So I've been selling real estate now for 19 years, and that's what I do. But I work from home.
Yeah.
It's not like, a 9-to-5 job. It's very relaxing, and I enjoy selling houses. So that's what I do
selling houses. Well, you're in the Central Florida area, correct? And you have still had some contact, even in the last few years with...
Yes, the contacts have been building more and more in the past few years, and in relation to they've been asking me to share my story. They've been giving me more information. They are wanting to, as I said, I've met with a group of 8 ETs, different species. They're actually 8 ambassadors.
8 ambassadors.
They represent a galactic federation, shall we say.
Interesting, because I've always had a theory that there was some sort of an intergalactic council. I don't know if I just had that intuitive thought process or what, because I've had that thought for quite a while. Tell us about this council of 8. What extraterrestrial races is this including? Okay,
well, if we start with Orton D, they're they're 2 of the ambassadors. They are guides and teachers. They are Arcturian, as they say. They look like me and you, very attractive.
Tall.
Tall.
Oh, thank you, by the way. Little compliment there. I'll take it when I can get it, you know?
And they have long blonde hair.
Okay.
And then there will be Zark. He's a small grey, again an ambassador.
Okay.
He's an engineer, mathematician. He has 3 offspring. He has a
offspring.
Offspring. Now,
Okay.
I don't know whether they call them children or what. I've never asked, but I know he has 3 offspring because he told me.
Now, greys meaning one of the shorter,
Yeah,
3
the short,
foot.
the small greys. Yes.
Okay.
But he has a sense of humour.
Does he?
Yeah, he does. He moves my wife's personal items around the house. And
Just randomly.
Yeah.
Here we go.
she'll do a place setting on the table, and she'll turn around and go back into the kitchen, and he's moved the knife and forks off the place setting.
But yet we can't see them consciously.
Well,
you can.
I can, yes.
Okay, the rest of us not so much.
When they are there, I feel a change in the vibrational frequency within the room. But I did ask Zark why he moved my wife's personal items, and he said he liked teasing her. He thought it was funny.
Yeah.
But there was a serious side to it, and the serious side was to let her know that we are here.
We are here.
We are amongst you.
I love that.
But I remember
without being scary.
Without being scary,
Right,
yes.
right.
My wife accepts the fact that they've introduced themselves to her. She's aware that they are there. So it's. I couldn't do this without the support of Sandy anyway.
Great.
So,
Now, does she have some of the same abilities as you, or?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay.
But she is aware that they're there because I remember on one occasion she shouted to me, she said, Kevin, I said, what? She says, have you been in the master closet? I said, no, why? She said, well, come and have a look. So I went in, and when Sandy takes the shoes off, she'll just take them off in the big closet and just leave them where she's like everybody does. And they were all lined up in a neat line next to the baseball.
Can you send them over to my house? I would want my closets organized, my cabinets. I need some help there. That would be cool.
But I asked him how he did that. I said, did you pick them up physically? And he said, no, I moved the atoms in space-time dimension.
So they're not doing this?
Not picking it up and moving it, no. They're just altering the...
Wow.
I mean, that's just amazing. But,
wow.
And then other things that have happened. In fact, they showed Sandy a craft.
Okay, I think we have a picture of that, don't we?
Yes, I did send it to you. Yes,
you sent us a picture of that. Maybe we could take a look at that picture, and you can explain to the audience here. So this is taken where?
Okay, that's at the back of our home. We have 5 acres.
Nice.
And behind us at that time, there weren't any other properties. There's one being built now. But there's a story, if we've got time for, I can tell you about that particular craft.
Please do, please do.
What we normally do at home, Sandy gets up first, she feeds the dogs, checks the chickens, and then goes outside and has a cup of tea. I get up and I make myself a coffee and go and sit outside, and that's the view that we have. On this particular morning, I thought to myself, I'll go and see if I can speak to the group, the Council of 8. And so I opened my mind, I relaxed, I put the information out there, and I wasn't able to contact them, but I contacted a small craft that was in the area, and in the craft were about 5 or 6 small greys. Now the guy that was piloting the craft, his name is Tia. I've met him before. He's a pilot, he's a technician, and I asked what he was doing here, and he said, Kevin, we were in the area and we came over to see where you lived. So fine, so we had a little bit of conversation, and they said, we'll have to go now because we're off our designated flight path and we need to get back onto that. So they left, we said goodbye. Nothing unusual for me, talking to higher conscious beings, being able to do that. But then I got dressed, I made my coffee, I went outside, Sandy was sat there having a drink of tea, and she says, oh, you missed the most beautiful rainbow this morning.
Yeah.
I said, did you get a photograph of it? She says, yes, I did. And she said it went from one fence to the other fence, and then she said, you're not going to believe what happened next. I said, no. I said, oh, a UFO appeared under the rainbow.
Under the rainbow. So when we look at that picture, is it the black
the blur
section?
At the right-hand side.
Maybe we could zoom in on that and take a good look.
Okay.
So tell me what's happening. It looks a little blurry there. Is it cloaking, or what exactly is happening?
I suspect that when Sandy told me she went to take the photograph, she was taking a photograph of the rainbow, and then she put the iPad down and the craft appeared. So then she lifted it and clicked. And in that moment in time, I suspect it was either cloaking or moving off at speed, and that's why it's blurred. But if you ask Sandy, she saw it clearly. It was a clear disc.
A disc-shaped UFO.
But the interesting fact was, when we looked at the time on the photograph, it was 8:30. 8:30 was the time when I was speaking to Tia and the small craft with the 5 or 6 occupants.
Oh, wow. So at the same time the craft appears in your backyard, you're having a conversation telepathically with the entity that's in that UFO.
Yes.
Wow.
And the reason why they've done that is for confirmation.
Okay.
Very often they give you, I ask for confirmation when I receive information, and that's the way we understand the communication. But this was twofold. One, it was to show Sandy a craft. It was an extension of moving small things around the home, so she's aware that they're there. And then it was confirmation for me in respect that I was actually speaking to them telepathically and at the same time. So a dual confirmation there. Yeah.
So and they're part of this Council of 8 that you're speaking of?
Tia's
not?
No,
okay.
he's just a pilot and a technician.
Okay.
And he was just transporting a group of people from A to B. I don't know where he was going. I didn't ask him, but
wow. And this is in Claremont.
Yes, that was in Claremont. Yes, that was. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's continue this conversation about the Council of 8, because this is very interesting, and it's going to lead into our final discussion. You've mentioned a couple of entities. What are some other ones that are in this Council of 8?
Okay, well, we mentioned Orton D. Zark, and then there's Anna. She's a blue avian type bird features, very tight blue feathers, and she has a bill, but it's more like a duck bill. It's like that, but smaller. And she's an empath. She's a healer. And she's part of the Council of 8, yes.
Part of the Council of 8.
And then the one after that would be Ra. He's the leader of the group.
Ra is the leader.
Yeah, he's Anunnaki. He's a watcher, very powerful being, very powerful. And he
Anunnaki,
he leads the group.
Right,
and then the one after that will be Tag. He's a tall grey, and he is responsible for the security of this quadrant of the galaxy, he tells me. But he's also responsible for the security of the Council of 8, the group of 8, the 8 ambassadors.
Okay.
And then after that there will be Chica. He's a mantis being.
Like praying mantis?
Like a praying mantis, but tall.
Wow.
Very tall.
I always thought there was something special about them.
And
I really did.
He's very intelligent. He doesn't have a sense of humour, because I asked him once if he was an entomologist. I thought it was funny, but
yeah, it is. But he didn't take it.
He didn't take it. No, he gave it.
Okay. It's like, woo.
So I know. And then the last one will be Orla. She's a tall white, and I believe that she's an astrobiologist. I believe.
So there's some females and males in this group of 8, and you have shared some information with me about this Council of 8 that's coming up very soon. You've given me a specific date. You want to elaborate on this big disclosure date?
I can do. If we've got time, I can tell you how I received the information, if that's of interest to you.
Yes, let's do that.
Earlier this year, February the 1st this year, I was woken up by the sound of a large craft above my home. Normally they're fairly quiet, or you just hear a humming noise. This was very loud, and I looked at the clock, and it was 1:11 a.m. So it's February the 1st at 1:11 a.m. I'd only been in bed a couple of hours. I was fast asleep, and they gave me the message that they wanted to meet with our government representatives at the United Nations, and So I needed confirmation of that. So I asked them, what about the date and time? And they said, I will give you that later. So I repeated the message back to them. I went into the bathroom, and outside of the bathroom there's a street lamp. And I repeated the message back. I said, if this is correct, can you turn that street light off? And the street light went off immediately.
Oh,
so
my goodness.
Was confirmation for me.
Absolutely.
I've got confirmation on the front end with February the 1st at 1:11. Very often there's synchronicity with the messages that I receive. And
the numbers too.
The numbers, yes. And then on the back end, I've got confirmation by them turning the street light off.
Wow.
So I was happy with that. So I went back to bed. About 7:45 in the morning, I was woken by someone jumping on our bed twice. I thought my dog had come into the bedroom, but they're not allowed in there. But when I looked, there was nobody there. But they woke me up by jumping on the bed. They gave me the second part of the message, which was the date and time when they wanted to meet with our United Nations in New York. So I repeated the whole message back to them, bearing in mind it's daylight now. And I said, if this message is correct, can you turn that street light on? and the street light came on immediately. So that was confirmation.
3 confirmations.
Yeah. And I always ask for confirmation when I receive information, especially if it's telepathic, because we need to know, or I need to know, that it's coming from them and it's not my imagination.
Right, right.
I can give you another example, which is a very good one. I was sat by my pool one evening, and they gave me some information about the quantum unified field theory. I knew nothing about that. I know a little bit about it now, but at that time I'm just sat there enjoying myself, relaxing. And they gave me the information, and the information said that your scientist's understanding of the quantum unified field theory is correct, with the weak force, the strong force, the electromagnetic force, and the gravitational force. However, there's a 5th interaction, and that is consciousness itself. If your scientists include consciousness within their own theory, unified field theory, then they will have a better understanding. So they gave me all that information in a split second.
The whole formula.
The whole thing. So I'm just sat there and I said, look, you've just given me all this information. I need confirmation that it's come from you and it's not my imagination. Can you show me a craft as confirmation? And a craft appeared straight away, immediately. So I went in the house to get Sandy. I said, Sandy, can you come outside? There's a craft here. I want you to have a look at it. We went outside. A second one appeared. A third one. 7 in total.
Just this past February of 2019?
What date was this? I'd have to check my notes for the dates of that one.
But in 2019?
Yes, recently,
okay,
yes.
Okay.
But I do write these things down when they happen because I can't remember all the information now that they're giving me.
Well, you have a lot of information. I can see why.
But anyway, all 7 flew silently.
Oh my goodness!
Over our heads.
Disc shaped?
They were like all big orb types. You know, when you see them, just like a huge orb.
Okay.
Okay, but they were craft.
Okay.
I know why we see that glowing. Why we see the glowing when they're craft. But they flew directly over our heads. Changed angle about 80 degrees, and then they disappeared sequentially as they'd appeared. So that
fast. I mean, they.
No, they all went to the same spot. They came in here.
Okay.
Went over there, and then they each disappeared at the same spot.
Oh wow!
All the way. So that was. And it was good that Sandy witnessed it.
Oh, absolutely!
Yeah, so
it gave you another eyewitness.
Yeah.
Of course, you probably didn't get that on camera, did you?
No.
I love the photo that you did share with us, though, with the rainbow in your backyard. That was really spectacular. Have you had anybody investigate that photo? Anybody look at it yet?
I've been out to a few people, you know, just out there.
It's really neat.
And the fact that Sandy took it, it wasn't me.
That's the coolest part. Exactly.
So.
Well, let's get back to the reveal date that was given to you. It's coming right around the corner. In fact, in about 4 weeks.
Yes, February the 1st, 2020, they told me. They want to meet with the United Nations. These 8 ambassadors want to meet with our ambassadors at the United Nations.
Our ambassadors,
They have asked for a mandate protocol to be in place to be able to receive them. In December 2017, I contacted the chairman of Outer Space Affairs Committee, Nicholas Hedman, and asked him if there was a protocol in place to receive extraterrestrials. His office did reply, and they said that there was no protocol in place at this time to receive advanced extraterrestrials should they wish to communicate with the United Nations.
I'm having a little trouble believing that one. No protocol?
Well, that's what.
I mean, wait a minute.
I'm sure they have. But
exactly.
But that's what they're telling. On that particular time, December 2017.
Right.
I was asked again to contact the United Nations just recently and give them the dates of February the 1st at the United Nations. And I wrote again to Nicholas Hedman's office. I didn't receive a reply this time. I just received an automated response that they received the email.
Interesting.
So then I contacted the Outer Space Affairs Committee in Washington, Dr. Dip Ippo, and I sent him the same email with the same request. So they have the information, and I'm sure they do have protocols in place because at some point in time in our future this is going to happen. And I have been told that there will be more and more mass sightings leading up to the reveal.
Mass sightings?
Mass sightings.
Okay.
However, it is dependent on this mandate protocol being implemented and people aware that it's been implemented, then they can make a request to visit with our ambassadors at the United Nations.
So the mandated protocol, you're saying to me that we have to have the United Nations agree with the Council of 8 extraterrestrials agree.
Yes.
They all have to agree.
They all have to agree. And then what we have to do, we have to invite the extraterrestrials to, as ambassadors, to come and meet with the ambassadors at the United Nations.
What's your feeling? Do you think that's actually going to happen?
No. Not on February the 1st, no. My personal feeling is no, because we haven't had confirmation of the mandate protocol being implemented. So we need that to be implemented. Once that is done, then yes. And we can reschedule. I can ask them for another date if we want to do that.
So February 2nd's been thrown out a couple of times, 2/2/2020, as a mass sighting date.
Right, okay. Well, I asked them what was important with the date of February the 1st, 2020. And they said, Kevin, it was the February the 2nd that was a significant date. And it was significant because it will be the first dawn of a new humanity. And I thought that was quite profound when they told me that.
Yeah, 2020 vision, right?
But what I suspect what will happen now is on February the 1st, 2020, because we haven't had confirmation that this mandate protocol is in place, then there will be a mass sighting over New York. And I was recently in New York in August with my wife on a vacation, and I was reading a post by a Dr. Joseph Briggs, and he's part of the Free Foundation, which is now part of the Contact and Conscious Research Institute. They've changed the name. And I was reading his post on my phone, and it was about experiences like myself who'd had a dream. And the dream was that the craft appeared globally over many major cities. And I've had that dream myself 3 times in my lifetime.
Wow.
Because each time I woke up, I was disappointed it was a dream. So on this occasion, I read the post. I think I made a comment, and I put the phone down. I then looked out of the hotel window, and I looked between 2 skyscrapers. And between the skyscrapers, about 15 craft appeared. They formed a pattern. They disappeared, they formed another pattern, and then they disappeared again. Now that to me was confirmation of the post that Dr. Joseph Briggs had posted, and then a precursor for the reveal itself.
Right.
And so I'm very confident in the information I've been given because of the confirmations that I received.
Oh, multiple ones.
Over the years, I've had many confirmations. I can tell you many more, but we don't have time today. But
it's just an hour show.
Yeah, no.
Well, you know, I'm sitting here trying to imagine what that would be like to have a mass sighting over New York City.
Yes.
Are we ready? I mean, you and I are ready, but is the general public ready for something like that?
I think so, yes.
You do?
I do, yes.
You think we've done enough disclosure up until now that the mass majority of the people won't just freak out on us?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
I think so, because we are getting the information out there. I'm sharing this information only for a short period of time.
And I am, too.
And you're sharing it, yeah. So everybody that's involved is sharing the information.
We really are, and we're trying to get that message out. We're trying to, get the government acknowledgement. Hey, let's say September 16th was a big day in our history.
Yes, it was, yes.
The United States government finally acknowledged that UFOs do exist.
Yes.
That was huge.
That was huge, absolutely huge.
It should have been front page news.
It should have been, but it was. It was on some papers, I think. But
some, not enough. I mean, it should have been on every news station, every media outlet that there was. It should have been broadcasting that. But you know how
but
that
our
is.
governments, they do know they're here.
Right.
It's just really confirming it to the general public, and then we can have that transition. And I believe that experiences like myself, we're here to help with that transition.
Absolutely.
Because I personally have direct contact with this group of 8 ambassadors, and I know others that do as well. I've had confirmation of several people who have direct contact with these group of 8 extraterrestrials.
Wow.
So I'm very confident in the information that I've been given. And as I say, we can always reschedule another date. But I'm hoping that on February the 1st, 2020, there will be a mass sighting. I don't think there's going to be a landing now, and there will be no meeting unless suddenly tomorrow something happens. But
well, there's a lot going on in the world right now.
There is.
I mean,
yes.
you know, you have the Australian fires, which is just terrible in and of itself, not to mention all the political unrest that we have going on. So, you know, maybe there would be some sort of a protocol that happens on February 1st. I'm sitting here thinking about February 2nd.
Right.
2020.
Yes.
It's Super Bowl Sunday.
Is it really?
Oh, yeah. So do you want to make Super Bowl Sunday super? Show up.
That's a big bowl.
You know?
A big day, so yeah.
Right.
I never thought about
Unless it's like an Independence Day movie. I don't want that reenactment.
But no, they want to be invited here.
They want to be invited here.
Yes.
The Council of Eight wants to be invited here.
Want to be invited.
They're the good guys.
They're the good guys.
Nothing to fear.
Nothing to fear from them,
Okay.
no. I'm sure there are some I can't say the word malevolent.
Yeah. Well, just like in humans. I mean, there's good humans and bad humans.
But no, this particular group, and I say I've had contact with all 8 for 57 years. I'm very comfortable with them. And I say I've now met others who are quite prominent that have met this same group as well. So.
And what are they doing to advance this awareness, if you will? The Institute is one of
I
them,
was asked to contact various groups, and all those groups are working towards disclosure, post-disclosure, like the Exo Consciousness Group, the Disclosure Group, the Rama Group from Peru, the Exo Politics Group, the Contact and Conscious Research Institute now with Ray Hernandez, and he has a new book coming out in May, I believe, with all the leading scientists contributing a chapter, and he's including some experiences within that book, and they're contributing chapters as well.
And you're one of them.
He has asked me, and I have submitted a chapter. Whether he'll include it or not, I don't know.
Oh, I have a good feeling.
We'll wait and see. But what he's doing, he's bringing these leading scientists together with the experiences and bringing the two together. But I know that, he told me this, that he was asked to do that by his ET guides.
Oh.
So there are many guides out there, and I'm probably one of the first that's actually speaking out about it because I was asked to. If I hadn't been asked to, I wouldn't have said anything.
Well, yeah, and you're being led here. Yes. And you and I have met not because of coincidence.
No.
Because of synchronicity.
I find that in fact, I was asked to go to a MUFON meeting a few years ago in Orlando by Ort, and I'm driving down there and I'm saying to him, I don't really want to go. I'm not really interested in going. I said, but if I'm going, I'd like to meet people that will help me on my journey. I went down there, and from that meeting I met Dr. Melanie Barton, and then through that I met Kathy Martin. And she's a lovely lady.
And then we met at UFO Con.
Right, yes we did. So
that was cool.
It's all been linked together.
Yes.
In fact, Kathy's endorsed the book now.
She has, right here on the back cover.
Nice
in fact, Kathy, thank you so much for that. And this book, I can't say enough good things about this book, Kevin. This book is such a fantastic read. Absolutely recommend getting this book. It's found on the BMK Publishing website. It's also on Amazon. It's on your website as well. Can you give us that website real quick?
It's www.kevinjamesbriggs.com.
Wonderful. And this book is so good. It shares Kevin's entire story. And in fact, I have a little bit of surprise for our studio audience. All of you are going to get a complimentary copy of this book. So, yeah, this is great. Kevin's going to sign it for each one of you. And we couldn't be more pleased to have this book as part of the BMK Publishing Company and part of the UFO Woman show. And, you know, we just have a lot going on. It's a new year. It's 2020. New vision, right? Perfect vision.
And we don't have long to wait till February the 1st. And I will be in New York at that weekend.
Oh, you're going to be in New York on February 1st. I'm
meeting a producer and a film crew up there. So if anything transpires, we'll catch you on tape.
You're going to capture it on tape. Then you got to come back here.
It may just be another mass sighting. I don't know, but we'll be there. We'll see what happens.
If you capture something, you got to come back on my show.
I'll come back.
Absolutely. Yeah. And what a coincidence, or not, that you're going to be in New York City at that time that your ETs had told you was a significant date.
Yes.
You know, certainly we're all hoping here on the UFO Woman show that the protocol does get in place, and they are, going to proceed with that. That would be
Yes.
great.
Well, let's wait and see. As you say, I'm sure our governments already have a protocol in place, but we need to know that publicly that they are there. And then we, as the 8 ambassadors, they can ask for to meet.
Great. Well, Kevin, thank you so much for being on our show. We really enjoyed having you. The book and everything that you shared with us today was just fantastic. I am Melissa Kennedy. Thank you for watching the UFO Woman Show. Until next time, keep looking up.